Man's back. Man's one time vaccinated, nearly double, and I'm feeling better than ever. Yeah, man. I don't know if there's a vaccine making me feel that way or just the good vibes. And I'm so happy that all you guys are here with us tonight. Oh my gosh. You know, we have got a jam-packed show for you. Oh, we have got a very special, exclusive, one of the most amazing special co-hosts on the show tonight. It is, drum roll please, and that's it, Klaudia Fior. What's good, Klaudia? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dan?
Oh, I'm all the better for seeing you, family. Real talk. Have you had a good weekend?
I have had a very eventful weekend, yes, indeed.
That's what we like to hear. Eventful weekends. Don't know. I had a half party weekend, half family weekend, and I feel very, very refreshed. It's nice. And I also got caught up in the wind and waves of Birkenhead. Amazing times.
We love to see it.
And do you know what? It's been a bit of a quiet news weekend, so we had to make some of our own news today. But of course, Klaudia, you've got some interesting news stories for us. Before we do dip into them, I just want to cover one though quickly that I noticed. Did you see the guys trying to storm the BBC today?
No.
So basically, you know the whole QAnon vibe thing. I don't really know what you call that, because basically it's billionaires trying to make poor people look stupid, right? That's the way I feel. I don't think they look stupid. I just think they get led the wrong way and they're given wrong information. But anyway, there's a group of people who decided to storm the BBC today. And at first they went to a building that was sold in 2013 that isn't a BBC building anymore, and the police had to get them gone. Then they found the BBC broadcasting house, and they were about to storm the place there. So then their leaders kind of stopped them and went, "Hey guys, what are you gonna do when you get inside?" And they were like, don't know. We don't want to go in there and look like idiots. I was thinking,
you really look like idiots. You went to the wrong place.
Come on. honestly, I was just like, what on earth, watching this footage back. But that is not all that's gone on in the news today. Also, well, actually, let's get on with your stories. What is first up in your stories today on our independent media coverage?
First of all, we have got our good old friends at Byline Times with "While Britain obsesses over Europe, Europe turns away." Now, this story, of course, touches on Brexit, and the headline is pretty self-explanatory. It basically talks about how the UK's forgotten the EU's forgotten all about Brexit and has kind of moved on with other issues that they've got going on. While in the UK, we're still like, oh, Brexit this, Brexit that. And the right-wing media is very much still focused on making the EU seem like the bad guy when we're the ones that chose to leave, and we're the ones that Johnson's the one that has caused all the complications. So it just kind of reinforces the fact that the UK played itself with Brexit, and we're at loss here. What I think is interesting about the story is the article points out that a lot of EU politicians would actually be willing to take the UK back because they feel so sorry for British people because they know we got lied to. And I think that just goes to show how much of a mess we actually are at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It does also go to talk about that they hope for a chance of us actually requesting to rejoin the EU once there is a generational shift, because obviously young people voted to remain in the EU, unlike the older generations.
I hear you. Do you know what's mad with this? Like, you're not really hearing anything about like the empty shell stuff that's going on. A lot of people are having trouble accessing medicine. Like, I know some people are blaming the Suez Canal, but that was a couple of months ago now. You can't blame that now. Like, you know, capitalism runs really quickly. Suez Canal blockage, that didn't really affect things. It's a lot of the stuff that's going on right now is to do with the mismanagement. Let's be polite. No, the absolute cluster of what the government handling Brexit. And like, you know, let you look back over the history of it. How many Brexit ministers have there been? You know, before we even left, they kept changing the Brexit ministers, and even now, you know, those guys.
So
yeah, and those guys during the pandemic, those same ministers, because I think they were all men. They're all getting found out for different kind of, whether it's getting in trouble for something or making money out of the pandemic, and they're just being proved for, like, these people are opportunists. Brexit was not a great idea. It was an opportunity for certain people to make money. I'm sure Jacob Rees-Mogg is very happy with what's going on in Brexit right now and the money he's making. Now, before we move on to the next story, big up all the people watching right now, but you know what you need to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the follow button, hit the retweet, share the video. If you ain't on YouTube, make sure you head on over and hit subscribe, famalam. And after the show, check out bywire.news for our 24-hour coverage of the best in independent media. Also, I just want to remind you guys that this is the only place you can get news you know you can trust. What's next on the stories?
So next up, we have got our friends at the Canary with new UN report to set out stark reality of the climate crisis. Now, since we've actually picked up on this story, I'm pretty sure the report has come out. I have not caught up on it yet, but just as an update for everyone. And it's basically just self-explanatory. Again, it's just there's obvious signs right now of climate change being at its worst. There's tons of natural disasters happening, from floods to wildfires. Then you've got a temperature, the global average temperature rising by like 1 degree, and it just is, we're fucked. There's no other way to put it, but the climate is really going under. Do you know what I mean? And but what I think is interesting is that there's all, in every single one of these reports and stuff like that, there's all this pressure on the general public to recycle, or like watch out for our fossil, how much gas emissions we're producing, this, that, and the other. But then you've got people in America who are flying to space just for 30 seconds to see what it feels like, and you're telling me I should worry about how long I'm driving for. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't.
Oh, don't forget to, you know, not rinse your dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. Was I right in that I saw something earlier about that Boris said that they want to get to 68% reduced carbon emissions, and then Labour said that's not enough, you need to head for 70. Like, is that an actual story? Like,
you might be correct at this point. I don't know, but the story points out that basically in every single since the what is it called again? I've got the name of it somewhere here.
The UN report.
The UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was formed in 1988, and since then they've only produced a total of 6 reports. This is their 6th one now. So if it's, do you know what I mean? Even if climate change is that, it obviously is a big issue, but if it's that big of an issue and you want everyone else to be so concerned about it, why have you only produced 6 reports? But the one thing that all the reports have in common is that every single government worldwide is not doing enough to reduce its emissions. Now, what happens a lot of the time is the government then puts that pressure on us, and they're like, oh my God, recycle, do this, that, and the other. But it doesn't matter if you're still doing things wrong. Do you know what I mean? Give us alternatives, give us different, like Portugal, for example. Portugal is a very green country. They recycle pretty much everything. If you go to the beach in Portugal, you're automatically, like, you can pick up your own recyclable bin that you take to the beach and you put all your rubbish in there. Do you know what I mean? Give people easy ways to go about life and still be able to maintain the environment. Don't just be like to them, recycle, but don't take all the bins off roads. Like on the London Underground, you don't have a bin there. The most London Undergrounds don't have bins there. I understand, obviously, bomb threats. I get it. But some of them don't even have the plastic bag that you just hang there. You can't expect people to recycle and look after the environment if you're not providing them with what means to do it.
Trust me. Also, like, I find it mad. Like, you know, COP26 is coming up. We've mentioned it loads on the show already. But like, how are all these world leaders going to get to Glasgow? And then when they get to the airport, how are they going to travel together in a minibus from the airport to the location? Are they going to be all in the same hotel? And then, you know, like, is all the stuff they're going to be using renewable, recyclable, you know, all of that kind of stuff? They're just a bunch of big bad hypocrites the way they go on with these things. While meanwhile, one of the big issues that a lot of people aren't talking about is, you know, if we're going to get to zero carbon and reverse, start to reverse some of the impact that climate change has had on the earth, are we thinking about the jobs? Are we thinking about, you know, the people, the reparations for the people in the global south? You know, there's so much that's just not being spoken about that needs to be spoken about when it comes to climate change, which is why I'm so glad we've had the COP26 coalition. We've had Labour Green New Deal people all coming on the show to talk about these issues. But what we need is to hear it from the top. We need to keep pressuring them. The young people need to start coming out of school on a Friday from September. I think they should start coming out Thursdays and Fridays. Give them a 4-day week. We had Will last week talking about a 4-day week. I reckon the kids should have a 4-day weekends.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Just want to point out, someone in the comments said, why can't COP26 be done on Zoom? And facts, because COVID definitely pointed out to everyone that you can do pretty much everything on Zoom and via your computer. COP26 can definitely be done via a computer. But moving on to the final story, and
go for it.
My favorite pick of today is going to be from our friends at Open Democracy, which is Mark Duggan should have been the UK's George Floyd. Why didn't people let him be? So this story basically, if everyone's not familiar, Mark Duggan was shot by police back in 2011, and that is, his death is what sparked the 2011 London riots, for anyone who's not familiar with what happened. So basically the story points out at the fact that obviously there was the reason that Duggan was shot by the police is because the police officer who shot him claimed that he had a gun. Now there was obviously a lot of speculation about whether he was in fact holding a gun, because then the gun was found a couple of meters away from him, and it didn't even have his fingerprints on it. Witnesses said that he was holding his hands up, etc., etc. Now, there's video footage of the whole situation, but because this was back in 2011, before HD cameras even existed on phones, this was like 2 years before they came into the picture, the footage was basically not very good and couldn't be used as evidence, or people couldn't clarify whether or not he was holding a gun. I mean, you can make your own decision on that, obviously. But so the story picks up on whether or not if this had happened today and someone had shot that footage, whether Mark Duggan would have had the same kind of impact on the UK as George Floyd had in America, obviously, and here as well. But I think Mark Duggan's death did have a massive impact, like a countrywide impact on everyone. London went up in smoke. I was involved in London riots. I was young, and I've never seen anything like it before. But what the comparison that I think you can draw from the two is the lack of difference actually between 2011 and 2021, because the media did exactly the same thing in both cases. They tried to, the only reason the London riots became riots, they started off as peaceful protests, but the people who were protesting were ignored by the police, they were ignored by the government, and the media decided to immediately make them seem like violent protests, even though they weren't. So if people just were tired of being unheard and unseen and said, if you're going to call us one thing, we're going to become that. So people started violently protesting. And in 2021, literally a decade down the line, and you've got them doing the exact same thing. You've got HD footage of someone being killed on camera, but yet they still want to vilify the victims. So I think it's just a very clear, like, it just underlines how little has changed in regards to systematic racism in both the UK and the US, because the UK is definitely not innocent.
Real talk, bruv. Take a breath, you know. Like, one of the things I would say, come on. One of the things I would say as well is I think that people were not politically organized back then. Like, there were politically organized people, but let's not forget we had the student riots that year as well, and there wasn't that kind of political organization of the students specifically. I remember obviously watching both of those riots, specifically talking about Mark Duggan, from up here in Liverpool, and seeing it from my way of seeing what was going on was by what people were sending me on WhatsApp or BBM, and remember BBM, and also what the media were not showing. Like, there was one night where London was on fire or starting to get lit on fire, and there was nothing on the BBC, nothing on Sky. The only way I found information was Twitter, BBM, and WhatsApp. And I suppose that was a bit of a turning point for a lot of young people, that they could actually make stuff happen and get word out there. Those young people are now, you know, it's some of them in their 20s, 30s.
I was
Don't know, and they could actually get messages out there without using the mainstream media, and I think that's one of the biggest failures. So, and obviously, having read the article there, I think part of the issue here is it's not so much that Mark Duggan should have been Britain's George Floyd. I think Mark Duggan is the unknown George Floyd of Britain, basically. You know, enough love and respect to his family. Obviously, there was youngers there as well that have lost him, and they've gone through a lot, and they got their family's name got vilified by the media, while actually young people were annoyed. And there was a wider issue here as well, which is about stop and search, as you mentioned before. And every summer I get scared when I see the headlines about them reintroducing new types of stop and search methods and more young people getting attacked by British police. I get scared that we might see those scenes again anytime soon, because that was a hot summer.
Yeah.
And people, and by hot summer, it was a hot summer weather-wise, but I mean, people were angry. Young people were angry. Mentioned the student riots as well. It's a tipping or boiling point. I think is
it was.
And go on.
Yeah, it was. I like I said, I was there. I was involved in the riots. I was very, very infuriated. I was a young person. I just kept getting messages through BBM or WhatsApp and different things from my friends saying, "Yeah, we got a da 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 da." Like even now. So sorry, just to clear up, someone in the comments has asked if Mark Duggan was murdered by the police. He was. Yeah, he. Yeah. Yep, he was. He was shot by the police on the speculation that he was holding a gun. But
no gun was found.
No, there was a gun found a couple of meters away from his body behind a fence without his DNA actually on it. So
yeah,
it wasn't his gun.
That's what I meant. Yeah, sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just a huge turning point for not just London, the whole of the UK, because the protests spread from London to someone in the comments said that Birmingham got involved. It was just young people going against those in power. It was the first time, I think, that, like you said, young people realize that they do have a say and they can stand up for something that they believe in. And it was also, I'm pretty sure the article points out that it was around the time that obviously there was a financial crash a couple of years beforehand. So it was an opportunity for, quite frankly, the poor to get stuff they couldn't afford, because everyone ended, once it became a riot, everyone just started looting places and stealing stuff because...
Yeah, and at a time as well when like David Cameron was taking the mick with his hug a hoodie stuff, that, you know, Nick Clegg was just being a pancake in Parliament, doing nothing, getting walked on. So to me, like, you know, in response to the article, Mark Duggan was just he was the unknown George Floyd of our time. And has sparked some change. And what I think the beautiful thing is, since then, you know, there are Black Marxist groups, there are Black liberation groups, there is all kinds of different groups that have since then organized young people, especially young ethnic people in our cities across the UK, and are starting to build power. And there are groups like Labour's community organizing team that used to exist, and other kind of community organizing motives that are going on to encapsulate those young people, give them a political sense of being, and take them forward. And I just think that's fantastic. Now, talking about community organizing and communities, I think it's a perfect opportunity to jump onto our special guest tonight. Obviously not as special as you, Klaudia. You're always the most special. But yeah, earlier today, boy, so I want to tell you guys a little bit about why we met this guy. I don't know does anyone know, if you guys know him, can you hit the like button? His name's Jeremy Corbyn. If you've heard of him, hit the like button so I know you've heard of him. But yeah, I met up with Jeremy Corbyn earlier today. He's a guy, I like him. He was up in Liverpool today because there's teachers in the University of Liverpool that are currently fighting to keep their jobs. The chancellor of the university, Janet Beer, who's on like over 400k, fam, 400k. And she's basically decided that 47 members of staff are going to have compulsory redundancy. On one of the longest strikes recorded at the university and in Liverpool, the UCU, the union, said they voted for strike action, and they've been out for weeks, like since January or something. And they brought it down now so that there are 45 of those jobs are not going to be compulsory redundancy. They're going to keep their jobs in the middle of a pandemic. It's crazy, but there are still 2 jobs at risk. And the beautiful thing about with the UCU, and especially the people in Liverpool, whether it's 47 jobs or 2 jobs, we'll all stand with you. We'll all be with you. And they've continued their work. They're on strike at the moment, and they had a rally today. Now on Friday, they got in contact with the man Corbs there, yeah? And he said, yeah, of course I'll come down. Don't worry about it. And that's how we ended up with Jeremy up in Liverpool today, supporting that. Hopefully later in the week, some of you regular viewers will have seen, we've had the UCU on here to talk about it before, but we're going to get one of the branch officials to come on and let us know more about it. We will cover the story more. And also some of it is covered in Union News, so check them out. But here we go. You know, here's the interview. Met up with Corbyn earlier today. He's going to explain a bit more about it and a bit about the Peace and Justice Project. Enjoy the thing, people. here in Liverpool. Here on the Bywire, we are independent media, and we love to give the news that people know they can trust. And what we try and cover is the stories that you don't get in the mainstream. Obviously, today we've had the UCU out in numbers, showing big numbers after the lockdown. What's the importance of this rally today? Why did you decide to come along?
I got a call on Friday from the UCU saying there was a rally today. They thought they'd won 45 of the 47 redundancies, and would I come to support them in trying to get the last two over the line? And I said, of course. I don't need much encouragement to come to Liverpool anyway. It's a lovely city and I love being in Liverpool, but this dispute is a very important one, because winning it will show the university that they can't mess about with either teaching or non-teaching jobs. They can't mess about with cutting back. They've got to keep the jobs and make sure that the services are there for the students for the future. It's also a lesson to the rest of the higher education and further education sector. They're not available for cuts. They're not going to be taken like lambs to the slaughter. They've got to be supported. And so I thought today was great. And the numbers of people that came, the solidarity that was shown is important. And as I said at the end of my speech, we've got a very tough few months ahead. Furlough ends. Government is not increasing benefits, not increasing statutory sick pay, threatening to take away the £20 universal credit temporary up rate, and at the same time unemployment is rising and jobs are being lost all over the place. And at the same time, the very wealthy are doing extremely well. Bankers are getting their massive bonuses, number of billionaires is increasing, and 4 million children in poverty. And so this is part of a much wider issue in our society. And I have to say, sadly, our media are not reporting that.
Exactly.
Our media are simply not reporting that. They're talking about the success of Boris Johnson in dealing with the pandemic. Really? Really?
I ain't heard nothing.
Just imagine that had been a Labour government in office and we'd given a contract of £35 billion to the private sector for track and trace.
Unbelievable.
And it had failed.
Yeah.
Do you think we would have avoided media criticism? We would have deserved to be criticised. But no, it's all conveniently forgotten. And I don't know if you remember, during the 2019 election in the debate in Sheffield, said to Johnson, you're involved in secret talks with the US for American companies to come and take over our health service. He dismissed this with a wave of his hand.
Yep.
There's a GP practice in my own constituency now run by an American healthcare company, and there's 45 others in London and the South East, and it's growing all the time. They are dicing up, dividing up and slicing up our NHS before our very eyes. And where are the media on this?
Well, I've got to give credit to some of our media partners, you know, Manchester Meteor, Byline Times, The Canary, you know, just to name a few of the organisations.
I must apologise.
Yeah.
I did not mean
No,
themselves.
yes, definitely.
The point I was making, and
The mainstream media.
I should have drawn the distinction of the mainstream media and others. And so the presence of an independent media, a genuinely independent media, is so important.
Yeah.
The tough questions have to be asked. They're not being asked.
Most definitely. Now, obviously, you had a really high level of scrutiny over, you know, what breakfast you had to what soap you used in the shower while you were leader of the Labour Party, and still today we see some of that scrutiny. What do you think it is in the mainstream media at the moment? What is stopping them? The real reason, you know, because we could say that they might be a little bit scared. What do you think the real reasons are that the mainstream media aren't doing their job when it comes to scrutiny of the government?
It's the cosy relationship between big media and politicians around the world, between the Murdoch empire, the role of Fox News, and the role of state broadcasting corporations, that essentially they don't want to rock the boat. And I was under the most incredible levels of scrutiny. Some of it was absurd, beyond belief. And some of it was almost funny, you know. They found cousins I didn't know existed. They found second cousins I didn't know existed. I mean, it was all amazing nonsense. so much and so abusive.
Yeah.
And after the 2019 election, Sunday afterwards, I read the polling day edition of the Daily Mail.
Okay.
As you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I read
Or as you do.
I read the whole thing. And I put it on one side. I thought, my God, that Corbyn bloke, God, he's bad news. He is bad news. It was making people out to be personally evil.
Yeah.
What we're saying, our country has too much poverty, our country has too much individual wealth in the hands of a very small number of people, our country is not well run, and we cannot cope with this level of inequality. We were challenging inequality, and that's what it was about, and they can't cope with that.
Now, before we move on to what you're going to be doing later in the year, the Peace and Justice projects have got a focus in a few areas, but specifically around the media. And I'm really interested to hear more about what the Peace and Justice project will be doing around the media.
We set up the Peace and Justice project to give political home, political space for people, and to set up in campaigns. We're doing 4 areas of campaigning: economic justice, environment and sustainability, international justice, and media. In the case of media, it's pretty obvious we have a very biased, unfair, right-wing media, and actually a lot of people simply don't trust it. They don't trust the mainstream media in this country. So we've been establishing news clubs around the country. We've done quite a few of them already. It's absolutely fascinating. We invite groups of PJP names to come to an event. We talk to them about the local media, media issues, media ownership, media control, and in October we're holding a much bigger event at the People's History Museum in Manchester, where we want everyone to come together. The independent media, challenge media ownership, challenge media accountability, and build up a much stronger alternative media. It's not a competition between this group, that group, and the other group. It's about sharing our resources and sharing our message.
I remember in 2015, I was at a big cathedral in Manchester during the Tory conference, and you were the first opposition leader to ever turn up in the city where the government are holding their conference. And I think it was about 10,000 people turned up. So
none of them were Tories.
Yeah, because there was only 200 in the Tory conference. But I remember seeing those crowds and thinking to myself, you know, change is coming. Change is definitely coming. And the media tried to make out like it wasn't really a big event, and that you shouldn't have done it. They didn't really cover it to what it was. And it was just loads of working class people who were fed up. So looking forward to this year, obviously, I'm not sure who the opposition leader is. I haven't heard much from him. But you're going to be there with this event. Who else is going to be at the event with you?
A lot of other people who are very active on media issues, and we're going to be there putting a big message across. And it's going to be participatory, it's going to be inclusive, and it's going to be reporting back from what we're doing on the ground. Because if we are going to beat the incompetence, the inefficiency, and the inequality in our society, we need to know what each other's doing. Now, we've now got reasonable access to technology. 20 years ago, you and I could not have done this kind of discussion because we probably couldn't have afforded the camera necessary for that quality. But these days, that is there, that technology is there. But beware of the false freedom of the social media.
Yeah.
We all say, social media, great, it's free. Is it? The algorithms that work, that direct you to the news they want you to read, direct you to the products they think you ought to buy? I mean, I'm fed up with going to towns, turn on my phone, and I'm told you can get really cheap funeral care in this town. I thought, what? There's a funeral home here. I mean, God, you know, how do they know I'm there?
Okay, sorry to interrupt here, but we had a little technical glitch on the live recording, and what I asked Corbyn was his views on what's going on with Channel 4 right now and the privatisation, but also his views on the kind of work that Media Reform Coalition are doing on what a public media would look like. I'll let you get back to it. Peace.
Channel 4 is publicly owned. It was set up as a publicly owned but commercial broadcasting channel. It was designed to ask difficult questions, it was designed to represent minority interests, and so on. And sometimes it does that very well, sometimes less well. But I think they showed their mettle in the general election when they had the courage to hold an environmental debate that insisted that the party leaders come. Johnson and UKIP leader refused to come, and so they were replaced with blocks of ice.
That was brilliant.
And so I was standing next to one of these blocks of ice. The debate was it was quite long, it was over an hour. All you could hear this drip, drip, drip behind me the whole time. And I thought that was really witty, actually, and very good. And so obviously we support maintaining it in public ownership. But I do think the debate about public ownership and the debate about the future of the BBC has to be about access, has to be about diversity, has to be about efficiency and the privatisation agenda that's at work within the BBC. But it's also about news values. Somebody sneezes in the US government, we all know about it straight away. 10,000 people suffer horrendous problems somewhere in Africa. The floods in Mozambique, for example, barely reported on the world's media. There's news values at work which are not inclusive and not global. And so what I want us to do in Manchester is to have that discussion about issues of news values, reporting and access to the media and diversity in the media itself, so that young reporters, young black reporters, young Asian reporters all get a fair chance.
Most definitely. Listen, Jeremy, I love chatting to you. I love hearing everything you've got to say. Unfortunately, time does not allow us the time that we would like. So thank you very much for giving On the By-Wire the time today. Very much looking forward to spending time with you on October at the event. That's October the 4th in Manchester with the People's Assembly. Who else? Rob Delaney.
Rob Delaney will be there, I'll be there, and it's in the People's History Museum. What could be a better place to hold it?
Do you know what I mean? And it's in the north of England, the centre of the universe. Listen, guys, this is On the By-Wire. You know what it is. It's the news you know you can trust. Peace. Oi, come on. Listen, big thanks and love to everyone at the Peace and Justice Project. Big love, Artin, always there. Got to give him a little shout out. Listen, the Peace and Justice Project have got so much going on right now. If you guys want to get involved in the news clubs that they're setting up, go on the website and sign up. Let them know that you're interested in changing the media. When you tick the boxes, say changing the media. If you want it, they've got some exciting stuff coming up in regards to the environment. Go on the Peace and Justice website. It's called thecorbynproject.com, I think. Google it. You know what it is. But check it out and just tick the box to say you care about the environment. You can tick multiple boxes. Tick them all. Get involved in everything. Those guys are doing all the things that we talk about on this show, that we talk about needing to see change. And like, you know, it's only been around, it's less than a year old. Watch what comes next year when there hopefully isn't lockdowns, and they've got masses and masses of people involved. So we're definitely going to be doing some more work with them soon. It was absolutely fantastic to chill with Corbs. We had the Merseyside BLM and LGBT networks there as well. They'll be coming back on the show soon. They done a couple bits. Look out for their bits. But yeah, Jeremy's doing bits right now, people. He might not be the leader of the opposition, but he is definitely a part of the biggest movement that we are about to see it ever. Things are come, my dog. Trust me. Big up everyone who's been locked in. Socialist Think Tank, Unity News UK, Josh from last week. I saw you in the comments somewhere. Big up everyone who's locked into the show today. I'm just gassed now because I've had such a good day and I've got to spend the last half hour with one of my most favorite people on the earth that isn't a relative. So Klaudia, let everyone know what it is. Tell them what to do if they want to catch more of the show and see them out of it.
Right, so it's been me and Dan on the By-Wire. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at By-Wire News. Follow us on Instagram at By-Wire_news. And make sure you join Dan Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m. And you can catch me with him every Monday at 9 p.m. See you.
Peace.